everyone, and welcome to the 365 Pod. This is a podcast run by myself and a couple of people from 365 Talent Portal. And the aim of the podcast really is to talk about Microsoft insights, better space, and how to teach people to leverage more knowledge and user sharing within the ecosystem. So today we have Matt Batterbee. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
Yeah, so obviously you are the Global GTM Solutions Director at Pax8. You're very well credited in the ecosystem. I've known you for a couple of years now, just from various conferences, as have most of the Talent 365 Portal team. And we know that, well, the reason we wanted you on is because you've got a great understanding of working with numerous partners, you're coming from a different perspective, and you've obviously been incredibly successful at such a young age. So welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thank you very much for having me on, and thanks for the warm welcome. I feel like you've oversold me a little bit, but let's do it.
That's all right. That's what it's about, you know. We're gassing people up, I guess. But yeah, we'll go straight into a couple of the questions, Matt. Thank you so much for being on the podcast in the first place. But one of the things for those who might not know you in terms of our audience is, you know, what's one thing that you can tell the listeners that you think they wouldn't necessarily expect from you? That's something a bit different, like a personal hobby, or, you know, just give you the context.
So yeah, I mean, I got two that I don't think a lot of people know about me. So one is I absolutely love country music. So I always, anytime the country artist comes over to the UK, I'm normally going to see them with my wife, which is awesome. And the second thing is I just love going out hiking. I love going out on my own in the mountains, or with my dogs. My dogs keep me company as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no headphones, just listen to the nature and just enjoy a bit of peace. That's my little hobby.
Definitely. I definitely agree with you on the hiking thing. A lot of my friends listen to country music. I've been to a Tim McGraw concert once in Georgia, America. So that was kind of cool. That was actually my first ever concert, and I've been to a few American country music, Texan, Georgian, where they ride the bulls and stuff. I've been there as well. So
oh, cool. Yeah, no, I definitely need to up it a notch. I've been to concerts in the UK. We haven't done one yet over in the States, so that's definitely on our list. We want to go to Nashville. That's on our to-do list. Say, that's what you've got to do. You have to go to Tennessee. You've got to go to a rodeo as well. But that's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that, Matt. On the hiking, obviously, that's a passion we both definitely share. Yeah. I think the best thing about that is when you go up a mountain, you don't have any signals. So, although there's data on Everest, but not apparently in the Lake District. So I can't fathom the two, but that's, I guess, why we all like it. Yeah, excellent. And then you've been, correct me if I'm wrong, in the tech space since 2017. It might be a little bit earlier than that. So obviously you've come from a different perspective. Tell people a little bit about your history and how you ended up working in this space without coming from an IT or degree background, really. Yeah, so I mean, I've done a number of different roles in the past. I mean, I even was in army training once upon a time, and then got injured, and was kind of thinking of leaving anyway. And then I was a gym instructor, so I did the fitness industry side of things as well. So I've definitely always been a good people person. I think if you can get up and dance around or do a spinning class in front of people, you can talk to people in a boardroom. It's really easy. And then, I worked for a startup business, help them build out a call center and build out those policies and procedures. So I kind of came from a very unique background of doing multiple things in different industries, even healthcare and so on. And then saw this role within Microsoft as a contractor, and, thought, why not give it a go and see what happens. And I think what kind of impressed in the interview was I wasn't afraid to challenge. Even though I probably maybe knew less than the people in the interview. But they also tried to challenge me on something in my industry that I worked in at the time. And I was able to kind of push back and say, well, actually, I know my industry, and here's the facts and figures. So, yeah, I mean, coming from a different background, it was really interesting in when I actually started at Microsoft. And there was a couple of people in the team that had been around Microsoft for a while, and then a couple of us that kind of coming in fresh from completely different industries. And it was really interesting to hear that those those comments of, well, we've done it like this for so long. And it was me and the other guy who were coming in from the outside kind of going, why do you do it like that? Why is this happening? And how can we improve this? And we were the ones kind of looking for ways in which we can improve, whereas so many others were kind of looking at that status quo. And so it was good coming in. And I think that's where I was able to stand out somewhat, is I maybe did things a little bit different to the traditional way of doing things because I just looked at it completely differently to a lot of people.
Yeah, and you've not come from the same cut of cloth, so you've not had that blueprint internally where it works this way, it works this way. If you tend to come in from a different perspective and just be more disruptive and, as you said, challenging, I guess that's a really important point to make to our listeners, is don't be afraid to trust your gut feeling. And if someone's telling you something, or if you're coming from a different perspective, challenge them on that, definitely. Yeah. You work amongst hundreds of partners and have done since 2017. What would you say is the biggest challenge that they face compared to pre-pandemic, or what's changed over we've got the market's changed quite considerably, but for you, from the partner's perspective, what would you say is the biggest challenge for them at the moment?
I definitely think, in terms of, depending on what areas that they're focusing on, be it AI, be it even dynamics and solutions like that, is definitely a lack of talent in the industry, which means that they are getting outpriced very easily. I think, larger partners or larger companies that have that budget can spend a little bit more compared to a smaller business. So definitely being outpriced. But I definitely think since COVID, there's been a massive shift in where people can do their roles. And I'm a prime example of that. Even when I was at Ingram Micro, or even now at Pax 8, part of the Microsoft corporate teams of both, I was the only person located in the UK doing those roles. Everyone else was in North America. So being able to do a role with a lot of North America focus, but do it from North Wales in my small little town that basically has one road, a castle, and a beach. Being able to do that. Exactly. What more do you need? I've got everything I need right here. But the industry's definitely changed. So I think, in terms of those challenges, it is worth looking even outside of the UK. I think it frustrates me the most when I see companies say, I don't know, let's say they're located in Manchester or something like that, and they want someone that can go to the office 5 days a week. And I kind of question that and say, well, no wonder you're being outpriced. Especially somewhere like that. It's a big city. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of companies there. But being able to stretch further afield is something that would be extremely valuable to any business, especially whether it's places in the UK that potentially don't have a higher salary bracket. If you're in London, it's a high salary bracket, but if you hire someone up north like you and I, maybe we're a bit cheaper.
Definitely.
Or even, like I say, outside of the UK, I think that's where people can get some strong talent as well.
Definitely. I would 100% agree with that. And one other thing about a lot of the companies I've worked with over the past 7 years, I guess, is they were so used to having people come in the office. And I get that companies have invested a lot in these lovely office spaces, and I love that they have that. But don't be afraid to move away from this old style model. And if you hired somebody in London who is on 70, 80K, but in theory, you could get somebody who's based in Doncaster for less money, and they probably could get into London quicker than from someone can get from one side of London to the other. So that's also something I think companies need to be more open-minded. If you want somebody in the office, don't be afraid, now the train strikes are over, to look bigger and amongst the country. Because I did some training for AI the other week, and I got home back to Newcastle from London before the directors got home to the other part of London, because there was all the delays in London. And I emailed them, I was like, did everyone get home safe? And they were like, you're home already. I was like, yeah. And they couldn't fathom that, because it was quicker for me to get basically to Scotland at that point. So I definitely agree. Look to the South Americas. There's some amazing tech talent from the universities coming out in Rio. If you're a Spanish-speaking country, that also means we can bring in bigger implementations, because you've got that multilingual style. Yeah. Yes, an accent is an accent, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference. I think that's really good advice to give to companies. Don't be afraid to look to other countries. Is there anything advice-wise that you would say that they can overcome being outpriced when they are competing for salaries and staff? Because we know ourselves, post-pandemic, some of the bigger partners were charging 150k packages or even base salaries for someone who only had 5 years experience because they had the budgets. And then your little small to medium business who has been around for a couple of years, they can't compete with that. So what advice would you give those partners?
I think I'd say it's sort of having less of a strict kind of requirement for the person taking on that role. And I've even got an example of that where I remember we were hiring someone at a company I was at, and in the job description it said, I think it was 10 years experience. And I kind of asked the question, said, could I do that job? And the person actually responded, and I didn't realize I was asking in a way that sounded like I was interested in the role, but they kind of said, oh, that role's kind of beneath where you're at. And I said, I don't have 10 years experience. I don't have half that experience. So if I can do that role and it's beneath me, then we can, we don't have to have someone with 10 years experience. And also when I look at Microsoft, I think it's great. And I look forward to the day that I can say I've got 20 plus years experience of this industry and be seen as even more of a thought leader in the industry. But when you look at the Microsoft licensing, it doesn't look anything like it did 2 years ago, let alone 10 years ago. So sometimes having that fresher knowledge is actually going to be extremely valuable. In fact, it's funny, with the requirements from Microsoft for some of the programs for people to attain the fundamentals certifications, the people that fail those more are the ones that have been around it longer, because actually they remember how it was. So let's say Dynamics has changed and buttons have moved places and they've made it more productive. Actually, Dynamics looks completely different. So those people that have been around it longer are actually more likely to fail those certs, because they remember how it was. So I think having that balance is ideal. But again, you get someone in who's a bit more fresher to the industry, fresh ideas. They've not got any bad habits in the industry as well. Like all these things can be even more valuable sometimes than 10 plus years experience.
I definitely agree with that. And I know that there is a big movement, especially coming down from Microsoft, from the distributors like yourself, where it's like, look at the industry experience, look at the soft skills. Because I say this to my customers all the time. You can't train personality, but you can train technology. So think about, somebody who's driven, who's more interested, who's innovative, and they might have the industry experience. And I know a lot of the partners are moving towards that mentality. I guess on the point of adopting fresh ideas or being more flexible in the job descriptions, you mentioned don't put a figure down for 10 years. Don't be fussy on location. Is there anything else that you would want to add to that, just to give them a little more knowledge?
I think it's just being very open-minded, I think is the way that I would, for example, I did 1 week of a degree course, and knew that I was not going to last for 3-4 years, however long a degree. I don't even know how long a degree is. So that's not great. Yeah. But, I didn't go to university. I, at the time, didn't see the need in me. I was quite happy in what I was doing in the fitness industry. And I think I was going to university to do that. But again, I see people putting down these roles where, a degree is required and sometimes nothing specific. Just a degree. And sometimes I have to question, well, why? Do you just want someone who's in debt? I can't think of why is that degree? And you're not even, I get it if it's, I don't know, maybe it's a business leadership role and they'd like someone to have a business leadership degree, but sometimes it's not specific. They just want someone who's been to university. That doesn't make sense to me, when I think life experience can be even more valuable sometimes.
Definitely. And people, I know that there's a lot of movement, I think, from people at Pax8 and various other organisations they've mentioned about hiring people from apprenticeship level and all of those take about the skills. I personally did history and political science. How that interjects to me being an alliance manager for a training partner and an implementation partner, I do not understand how that works. But, so it also shows, if they want a degree, which companies shouldn't, don't say computer science. How many people in the finance industry now work in technology because they were like, I love the attention to detail. So don't just look at the university graduates. Be open-minded. 100% I agree with that.
And this is it. And I feel like I'm in the perfect role where I am and what I mean by that is in an indirect provider, because, and I think this stems back from even being a fitness instructor. The thing that I used to get out of being a fitness instructor was I loved helping people. And in the role that I'm in now, I get to help businesses. And I always say, someone asked me the other day, how would I describe my job to like my nana who knows nothing about technology? I said, I would say I'm a helper. I help these businesses here, which helps Paxate, which helps Microsoft. I am just a helper in the middle. And I think those skills of just being passionate about helping other people, and whether it's, their goals and getting in shape, that's helped me along this journey of where I'm at. And those skills help me now, even though they are completely different industries.
Yeah, I suppose that's such a good point. Look at the value and what somebody values when you're interviewing them. What motivates this person? What do they care about? Ask them about their own hobbies. If they just like sitting at a computer, that's not bad. Most likely be a developer. If they like to be more active and challenging, maybe they want to be challenged and more people facing. There's quite a lot of, don't be shy away from the soft skills, I would definitely say. Yeah, I agree with everything you've said there. Earlier, you mentioned about bad habits, from either consultant developer perspective or just the partner perspective. Is there, in terms of any of the bad habits that you've observed in the industry, what can partners and end users do to eliminate these, and what would they be really?
Yeah,
that's quite a big question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think, I see the bad habits all the time, and I don't see it as it's anyone's particular fault. I think Microsoft evolves very quickly. I think a lot changes very quickly, but also partners are also working very hard to keep their customers and offer more value to their customers and so on. So trying to keep up with that, with the technology, with the programs from Microsoft, it can become very, very difficult. And I think in terms of, being able to kind of maximize the Microsoft partnership is definitely something that I think can bring a lot of value to partners, whether it's, the marketing, consultations and free Go campaigns in a box, and even the technical pre-sales and deployment services, these kind of resources from Microsoft. I mean, there's upwards of $400,000 worth of investment that partners can access as a Microsoft partner. So they can really tap into a lot of resources. And as they start to tap into those resources, they're going to see how they can help educate their own people internally and build up from within their business as well. So yes, there's a ton of value into the business in accessing those resources, whether it's, the marketing and so on. It's going to attract more customers. You're going to maximize every single customer opportunity. But actually, in really accessing those, you can help build up your team internally as well, and help build a stronger team. And then you start to almost keep building upwards. So you're not looking to hire people up here because you've built them up. And you're looking to hire down here more, and then you can get more entry-level people.
And I guess as well, that'll be a way to tackle being outbidded by other competition. And a big point that we always talk about from the value proposition side, and to really improve staff retention, is about training. So, a lot of companies these days have a couple of hours set aside a month where their employees have to stay up to date with the latest technology, or, if you want to get this certification or this course. So, definitely, I guess that's 2 points there, is really don't underestimate training and staying up to date. We have to. I mean, there's a new release every 30 seconds. Who knows what Copilot's going to be like soon? It's changed since last week.
100%. And there's nothing more when you are, maybe it's someone at a lower level in an organization, there's nothing worse than every time a senior role becomes available, an external is hired, because it kind of kills your expectation in terms of getting that promotion and earning your way up the ladder. When every time a role, and it's not to say you're going to go from, I don't know, working in the call center to being a corporate vice president of the company, but it's if every time these roles become available, they just go straight external. It's not even a case of being outpriced. You're not giving anyone a career development plan that's realistic. They'll go somewhere else that even offers that. So sometimes, money is important to everyone. I'm not gonna be stupid on that one. But I mean, I've moved roles for less money, but with higher progression opportunities. Because that's what motivates me. Yes, I need a certain amount of money to look after my family, but I want a long-term career that I'm proud of as well. And I think if I'm not being given that, then I would look elsewhere over more than just money. And I think so, being able to build people up within your organization and promote from within, people coming in at the bottom end of the company will also see that happening, and other people will talk and tell each other stories of, oh, I was doing your role 3 years ago, and they might have a director title or senior director or VP, and those things can be extremely valuable to any business as well.
Yeah, definitely. I really agree with that. I think companies that have that internal, and they haven't that created that glass ceiling, they are the companies with a strong retention and their employees feel valued. Whereas the organizations who, like you said, hire externally, they chuck high salaries at everybody to incentivize them to stay, but then they're like, well, the amount of times I've spoken to people and they're like, I can't leave because I'm on a ridiculous salary. The company actually, I have a credit card. The company actually pay for my takeaways for my family at the weekend because they couldn't have that person leave, but they weren't giving them what the person wanted, which was a weekend anyway. There's nightmares of like that across the entire market where companies aren't valuing the person, they just see the skill set. And again, that's another point I think we could discuss for another several hours.
100%.
Promoting within it is really key. And obviously alongside the training. I guess another point to make on top of that is in terms of the mindset shift required for the partners to stay relevant at the moment in the changing market. Obviously, there's a couple of years ago, it was all BC, then it was Copilot, Power Platform. We saw that. Now it's more going into cyber and more licensing. So can you discuss the mindset shift that you think is required at the moment for these partners to stay up to date, to stay keen and to stay attractive to the consumers?
Yeah, I think there's got to be a shift in the way that partners are going and selling to their customers. It can't just be, I'm going to sell you this product. There's a lot out there, but also there's so many more challenges now for an SMB more than ever before because of how much technology is on the market. I mean, the average SMB business uses 7 to 10 different vendors for their technology, which kind of goes to explain why I think it's around 78% of SMBs have been hit with a cyber attack in some way, shape, or form. There's so many entry points. So what I'm getting at in a long and short way is, it's how partners can really just get to know their customers and get to know not just the IT decision maker, but the business decision makers within their customers to understand, well, what challenges are they all facing? An IT decision maker isn't going to know the challenges that a salesperson's having with the CRM system. Is a perfect example, and being able to have those different conversations and build those relationships within, no, especially in SMB, no customer's got the budget to buy everything all at once, but being able to build out an 18-month, 2-year pipeline with your existing customers helps you stay sticky. You're going to continue to add that value. You're going to continue to help that customer evolve. Essentially, you're going to help them grow their business, which puts you in that sphere of you're a trusted advisor. You're not just a reseller. You are their trusted advisor, almost like a consultant for them. Yeah. It's going to really help them. I think that's how customers can stay sticky. And we see it all the time. Customers that are buying just one workload from Microsoft are the least sticky. They will just jump ship for a little bit better price. Whereas if you're adding value, services, other solutions wrapping around that, you're not losing that customer. You become very difficult to leave in a good way. Not that you're kind of locking in your customers. In a good way, you are adding that value, and you don't even in this day and age, you don't even have to deliver everything. I don't want to do a sales pitch here for Pax 8, but we have professional services that we help partners with, and other indirect providers too. I want to be fair here. Other indirect providers have those professional services as well.
So the BBC, don't worry, Matt.
Yeah, Jaffa cakes are good, but there are other brands of cake biscuits that you can have. But yeah, so I just think, and just partnering up with other partners, I see it all the time at the Dynamics events. You see these partners that work together because one does ERP brilliantly, the other one does CRM brilliantly. So when they have opportunities for each other, they pass them over and they work together. And I think being able to partner up and have that partner network, you're going to be able to offer everything. And I think that's how partners can really add a ton of value. It's not about being able to deliver everything. It's about being able to just ask the questions and understand and take those answers away.
And don't be afraid to really spend time on nurturing that relationship. And, rather than jumping to the next sale call, ask everything. From our perspective, we started working with a company, I think it was in February, I met them at a conference. We helped them on a couple of recruitment roles, various places across the UK. And then they asked us, do you guys do training? Then we did AI training for them. And then when we were conducting the AI training, we realized that they have a dynamic system that hasn't been correctly adopted. Like none of the users are using it because they don't know how to. So now we understand that that's a need for them, and we've already got a user adoption program that we have that's tailored to any company. It's very flexible. We can help them. But if I hadn't spent so much time with this client nurturing that relationship, asking those funnel questions, why is that? What is the issue? What is the biggest predicament you're facing right now that is stopping your company growing? Well, what does that mean for you? And really finding out that value has meant that we've helped them considerably, and also means hopefully at the end of the year that dynamic system they've spent an absolute fortune with isn't going to go down the drain.
and this is it. I mean, like security is one of the big. I know Copilot and AI, but security is a big hot topic from Microsoft. And the funny thing is, again, I always end up using a Dynamics example, but you can slap on different security solutions and so on. But if that business, and you don't ask the question, but they are actually, every salesperson has their own Excel spreadsheet that they're using as a CRM system that they also share with their own personal OneDrive, so they can do a little bit of work from home. Like those things, you can do all the security you want. They could be emailing that to the wrong person if it's an Excel or anything like that. So, again, it's those data silos, it's those kind of things. So, but you're never going to uncover that unless you speak to the sales team. And you speak to those leaders in the business. So, I think with partners, the big thing that I think is the big bet for not just FY25, but the future is you have to get to know your customers. You have to, be able to offer those solutions right across the board from Microsoft. And, that's going to be how you're going to add real value, stay sticky to your customers, and also attracting a lot of net new as well. And I think even understanding what industries the customers are in. Every industry has different challenges, different line of business solutions that they potentially require. But again, you're not going to know that unless you speak to them and understand what industry, what do you do actually? What do you do? It's a very simple question, but so many partners don't ask. They just, you want 20 seats of business premium? Great, I can do that for you.
Yeah. And I guess once they feel more valued, the customer, they'll continue to come back to you, and you'll probably get better job satisfaction because you actually know you're making a difference. And people like ourselves who are people, they care about people, they want to support everybody. They're the ones who are the best at this role because they do actually genuinely care. So don't be afraid to take 5 minutes extra with a customer to ask those questions, to find out a little bit about them. Like 100% agreed with that one as well. I guess we've kind of run through the SMB, the cyber attack point and everything like that. Is there anything else that you would want to add to that as because it is such a big topic from Microsoft at the moment?
Yeah, I think, especially in SMB, you often hear the word too small comment around SMBs and being too small for a cyber attack. And I think it's because when you look at the news, it's, in the UK, you had JD Sports, that's massive company, millions of customers and, data being breached and so on. When you're small, you're just too small to be reported on because maybe it's a business nobody's heard of or, not many people have heard of or anything like that. Whereas when it's JD Sports, when it's the NHS, when it's huge organizations or the government, it's going to be a big news headline and something that people will go and click on. It's just clickbait articles at the end of the day when you've got a massive company. So, I mean, just because you're a small business, even a one-man band, it doesn't matter. You can still be targeted, and it's still very costly for a data breach of client information, even to an SMB. So just by spending a little bit more to have the right solutions can save you a lot in the long run. I think is the big thing there. It's the same with, you buy clothes, you buy cheap, you buy twice. To which I have learned recently needing to go out and buy more new socks for when I go on holiday tomorrow because all my socks had holes in because I bought cheap. So I was told off and I've bought better socks. It's the same with technology.
Well, I actually always buy men's socks now because they're thicker than women's socks. And women's socks, you can honestly, they've gone in about 6 months. So I always nick my boyfriend's socks. So I do agree. It's not like it's even cheaper. It's just that the quality is better for the men's stuff as well. That's an issue in itself. We won't discuss that today. But is there anything else you think that is really important for our listeners in terms of hiring advice or anything that is important you think that you want to mention from your perspective?
Yeah, I think honestly, I think sometimes, take a chance on people. I think sometimes, you mentioned it earlier around getting to know the person and getting to know what makes them tick a little bit, what are they passionate about? And I think, I've been very lucky as well as working hard. I think I've been lucky that I've, when I've been having conversations with organizations that have wanted to hire me, I think I've highlighted my own personality probably more than my experience in a lot of the times. But I'm very goal orientated, and I've hired people in the past, not even just in the tech industry, but just in general, that I just like them in the interview. I remember when I was a manager in a call center, I remember hiring someone who was like they'd never used a computer before.
Really?
They were amazed when they received someone's out of office. And I remember being like, yeah, that's an out of office email. And they were like, what's that? And but this person in the interview was just incredible. And you could tell they were highly motivated. He wanted to provide for his family. You're like, this guy's going to work hard and he did. And now he's even in a higher position in that company. And I think, sometimes we can get so bogged down with what is written on a resume. And I hate that. I really hate that. I think I'd love to, if I was going to hire, go for another job, I'd love to not have to send a resume. I know you've got to. I know it's the way we do things.
Or a cover letter. Oh, they're the worst things in the lot. They're such a waste.
It's saying you're writing what you think they want to hear. Let's face it. When it's a resume or and I think sometimes it's taking that chance on someone who is going to work hard, is just going to be a good person and a good fit in the organization, regardless of their skill set today. Are they willing to learn? Are they willing to put the work in and the effort in to have those outcomes that you want? And or are you just going to focus on, well, they've got 20 years experience?
Yeah, and another point on that, is focusing on personality and what their potential could be. Is if you bring somebody in who has 20, 25 years experience, who, has all the qualifications, ticks all the boxes, but doesn't have the same personality traits as the people in your team, that person is going to disrupt quite significantly the motivation, the team's calls. And if everybody's working from home, people will be reluctant to actually have that team collaboration. But if you hire somebody, like you said, on their personality, on their drive, and they get on so well with everybody, then you've got that unity as a team, and then your retention improves. Everybody's working hard. You've got a bit of banter, which actually is so important these days when everyone's working from home. So definitely two points there to consider just for the partners. But thank you so much for that. One of the questions which we always ask at the end of the podcast, I feel like that time's gone very quickly, but always flies when you're having fun, is about personal failure. So we want to change people's mindsets in terms of seeing failure as a negative thing to seeing it as a positive thing. And so what is a significant failure that you've faced personally or professionally? How has it made you feel? How did you react? And then what were your learnings from that specific situation? Yeah,
I think, I failed so much, which probably doesn't sound good, but everything is a learning experience, I think. And it even stems back from, when I was 14 years old and I played inline hockey and I tried out for Team Great Britain for the first time, didn't make the team. Second time, didn't make the team. Third time, made the team. And now I'm able to sit in my office. I've got my Team GB jersey from when I was younger. I've got my Junior Olympic.
Cool.
I've got a Junior Olympic silver medal. It's, being able to, and I think it does come from a young age, being able to kind of, playing sports or anything like that, where you're going to experience that failure, that loss, and just, I'm going to go again next year. I know what I need to work on for next year, and I'm going to get better. I'm going to get faster. And I think I've just built that into my career, whether it's hitting, targets that were set or anything like that. I think, you've got to be able to fail fast. And I think failure is not a bad thing. I think if you go through life and you just get everything that you want, you don't know how to deal with that failure. And for me, failure is just as important as succeeding. I think it is one of those things that I'm just naturally able to kind of bounce back from. And I think, that in itself is a bit of a skill.
I was going to say, it's how you deal with the situation and not the situation itself. It's your reaction to it, right? And if you just think, chin up, charge the mountain, let's get on with it. Those people, the people that you want to hire and the people that have got that.
And this is it. And I remember when I first joined Pax8 and I was asked to put something together for one of my bosses at the time. And I did it in the way that a previous boss of mine would have liked to have seen it. And then I got on a call and she gave me, the critique of this is how I like to see it. Awesome. So it's not necessarily a failure. That is just, it wasn't how she wanted it. So she told me how she wanted it next time. And then from then on, everything that she wanted and I delivered, she was like, perfect every time. Yeah. So it's being able to also, whether that's, you see that as a failure or not, but just being able to kind of take that criticism and build on it and just make sure, that you're doing the right things moving forward. So again, maybe not necessarily a failure as such, but it's just, that
don't be afraid of criticism, I guess. Constructive criticism. Even sometimes it might not be verbalized in that way. Internalize that, utilize it, making you a stronger person and a more well-rounded person as well. Thank you so much for sharing that, Matt. I think unless you have anything else to add, I guess that.
Just a huge thank you for inviting me on.
Thanks for coming.
I really appreciate you reaching out, and I'm sure hopefully one day in the future we'll do this sat around a table and we'll do it in person.
Fingers crossed. That'll be great. But thank you very much, Matt. Enjoy your holiday with the family. I'm very jealous. And hopefully we'll be able to follow it on LinkedIn. Or are you just going to turn off LinkedIn for the rest of it? Take a bit of a break.
I like I said, I was working till midnight last night just trying to get everything, all my call to actions ticked off. I want to be completely switched off for the next 2+ weeks of so even Teams will be going on do not disturb, I think.
Amazing. Well, that's what you deserve, and then you can enjoy your new socks and everything as well. Perfect. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you.